Okay, it looks like we're at the hour. Welcome everyone to this Guava and CellTrust webinar. My name is Q Mangus. I'm the Director of Product Marketing here at Guava, and I'll be your moderator here today at the event. We're really excited to have CellTrust on this webinar, and joining us will be Brian Panico. He's the Vice President of Global Sales Strategy, and he will be doing most of the presentation here. And we will have some time for a live demo as well, and that will be after the presentation. A couple of items to take note of before we get into the brunt of the presentation is, if you do have questions as we're going through the presentation, we're going to have time at the end of the webinar, or actually midway through the webinar, and then again at the end of the webinar for time for Q&A. So if you have some questions as we're going through, please feel free to put those through in the Q&A, and you can see that on your WebEx dashboard there, the Q&A or the chat, and we'll monitor those, and then we'll get to those as we have time for the Q&A. So yeah, just make sure to get those questions in so that we can make sure to answer any that you may have. Also, this webinar is being recorded, so if you want to share this with anyone that was not able to be here, you will be receiving an email with a link to this recording. And I would also encourage everyone on this call to visit our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/GuavaTV. We have plenty of other webinars that we've hosted and other videos as well for you to take a look at. So that's about all we have to begin with, and we'll go ahead and get into the webinar. So we'll turn the time over to Brian, and Brian, the time's yours.
Sounds great. Well, thank you for the introduction. Again, I'm Brian Panico. I'm our Vice President of Global Sales for the CellTrust Corporation. We're pleased to be able to be on this call, really to discuss some of the different business transforming applications that the CellTrust product really offers. We serve multiple vertical markets. I'd have to say that financial services and some of the needs that are being driven for compliance and archiving of messages and voice are really driving a lot of our deployments today. But that's not to say that other verticals have really key dependencies upon the same technologies. So as we get into this webinar today, we're going to go through the PowerPoint presentation that's going to give you some information on CellTrust, information on the use case, information on the integration with Guava, which really kind of finishes the story and becomes such a powerful offering. Also, we're going to, from there, we're going to take a quick break to address different questions and have some interaction from the folks that are attending the webinar. Finally, I have a couple folks from my sales engineering team that will be showing an actual live demo of the application on some devices and communication back and forth. So to get started, to give you a little bit of background information on CellTrust, we did found the company in 2006. I've been on the team since we got things going, and it's been just an incredible ride. Expansion has been very aggressive, particularly over the last 24 to 36 months, as the market has really demanded both the encrypted, secure communications over SMS and voice, and then also the ability to capture communications in BYOD and corporate liable models inside of enterprise. We've had, as we mentioned, a ton of success in government and financial space, and we'll kind of start to share some of these use cases. To give you an overall idea of what our app and what our product and solution does, CellTrust Secure Line actually enables, through our application, SMS encryption and voice encryption for internal communications, and also gives you that distinct ability to talk outside of that internal network to other users and archive that information through the use of our mobile business number. As we get deeper into the slides, you'll see that this is a huge advantage for BYOD type deployments, where you can have two different phone numbers on one device, one being the business and one being the personal, so truly giving you that separation that organizations are looking for, but also giving that security on the inside of the organizations that need to encrypt communication as it goes through these channels. I think what you're really seeing from this market is that communications are obviously such a key part of business. And particularly now that things are becoming more mobile, if you don't focus on this, your productivity is going to be significantly hampered. I think what you also are starting to see is the collaborations of these particular communication methods becoming more effective. So it's not that just you can have instant messaging or even CRM applications, but they should be integrated into your other communication tools. And again, we'll get in some of these mobile workflow conversations as we continue the presentation. I want to set things up by talking about the business challenges that are out there. And I think from what we see out there in the field, it has a lot to do with the overall mobile strategy. At one point, it was corporate liable devices that dominated the industry, and it might have been just one device type. But as your mobile strategies have changed and user demands have introduced more of a diverse device strategy, whether being corporate liable or even organizations that have recognized benefits from BYOD, the regulatory challenges still exist. And now these challenges are even greater because of the diverse device strategies and diverse device populations out there. So what you see is the strengths of Guava being able to archive all of this communication from multiple sources, and now needing a strong partner on the other side to be able to adapt to the changing mobile business strategies of enterprise. Well, CellTrust is the solution that solves a lot of these issues when it comes to the SMS and voice piece. You see that you have to have a unified solution for corporate liable and BYOD within your organization. CellTrust can provide organizations this dual persona, so we have a ton of strength and a huge population of our deployments are BYOD deployments because of the two mobile business numbers. It's like having two phones on one particular device. Now, I like to kind of talk about real-life scenarios with some of this stuff. For example, when you think about a broker, right, who works for a big bank in New York City, this is an individual that if he is now, a BYOD user, he has certain things that he wants to keep personal, right? He doesn't want his personal phone number getting out there. He doesn't want his work looking at text messages that he sends on the personal side or having access to any of his information. So typically what you see with these strategies is the bank or financial institution makes a selection for an EMM provider, right? So let's just take, for example, we'll be showing some of our, in our live demo, we're going to be showing some of our app integrations with Good technology. Good, for example, provides you this secure container that separates your work apps and your personal apps on your device, while also providing you a mobile tool to do secure email. And this has been traditionally how things have gone. Then policy is put into place from the financial organization that says you're not allowed to text about work communication on your personal device if it's BYOD, and you're not allowed to make phone calls. But I'm traveling everywhere in the world, and when I'm spending time in the back of a cab in New York City and I'm getting work done, you better believe that there's three things that are critical for my work and my personal productivity, which is obviously the email, which these container providers and secure email providers have solved on the mobile device. But you better believe I'm using my SMS and I'm making voice calls when I'm in those scenarios, and I'm mobile and I need to do business. So now we have this solution where in the same scenario, CellTrust provides you a second mobile business number on that BYOD device that allows you to make phone calls from that number and send text messages, while the enterprise has all of the capabilities to record and archive those communications. So you see that the solution is one that not only meets the organization's compliance needs, But there's also pieces on the business side that have to do with the cost efficiencies of having this type of solution and going deeper into empowering their mobile strategies. We all know that from a compliance perspective, particularly in financial services, FINRA and the other players and regulatory bodies are requiring this communication to be tracked. One of the pieces that organizations typically start to realize as well is this notion of cost efficiencies. Reduction in costs for stipends out there on BYODs, because now you could actually track how much messaging is going through the system and how much voice is being used. And again, really enabling that mobile strategy becomes a critical part of our solution. The combination of CellTrust Secure Line and Guava Retain, as I mentioned earlier in the call, really completes the equation that an enterprise needs to have that compliancy and give that productivity to its users, whether it's corporate liable iOS devices or whether it's BYOD strategies out there in the field. Guava obviously supports that long archiving of these communications. We have real-time integrations built with them. So when it comes to CellTrust grabbing the information, Guava is the expert at taking the information and presenting it into forms that support strong levels of e-discovery and compliance, and they kind of do their thing, which is amazing. We do our thing, which is enable the secure and productive users and end users. I want to just kind of highlight a quick architecture slide that kind of illustrates what it looks like with this communication, where you have CellTrust Secure Line app users, and any communication that goes through that business app on the phone, would be transferred over either the cellular network or the Wi-Fi network, going through the firewalls, ultimately getting to the CellTrust server, and connecting into the enterprise applications or servers of the organization, or in this case, connecting into the Guava system to be able to retain and archive that communication. To kind of start to wrap things up as far as this piece of the presentation, I think it's really important that as these technologies evolve of any kind, that partner network and that ecosystem that you develop is so key. There was a slide earlier in the deck that talks about mobile workflows and productivity and enabling yourself within other applications and really developing within the ecosystem. Well, I think it's important to note that CellTrust has developed relations with 850 carrier networks throughout the world. Some of these are absolute direct connections, others utilize third parties and hubs, but establishing that communication on a global level has been so critical for our success. Not to mention spending a ton of time with the folks at Samsung, who we have very strong partnerships with, as well as Apple, to get access to different levels of ESDKs. On the Knox side, building our technologies into the deep roots and beyond the trust zone within the devices, and then really that EMM portfolio. Our strongest partner on the EMM side is Good Technology. We've done very deep integrations with them in terms of collaboration and workflows within their systems. And finally, being able to have that last leg of it with Guava to be able to archive and long-term capture of these communications on iOS and Android devices empowers your enterprise organization to have that complete split on a BYOD side between personal and business, and also have that solution that for the first time that you could actually capture and archive communication that goes on corporate liable iOS devices. So that kind of wraps up the first part of our presentation, which is really trying to establish the problems that CellTrust solves within the enterprise. Also elaborate on some of the integrations that we've done with Guava, and we do want to pause and take the opportunity to address some of the questions that might exist from the field prior to going into the actual live demonstration of the product and applications.
Okay, great. Once again, if you do have any questions, feel free to put those through in the Q&A or chat. We do have a few questions that did come through. One would be, what if a user has multiple devices? How does that work?
Good question. So the CellTrust solution can exist on multiple devices. One thing that we also see, in addition to supporting in multiple devices, has to do with even tablets that come up pretty frequently, right? So, in financial services, I've seen some statistics that say that close to 24% of the corporate liable devices that exist today in finance are actually tablet devices. So it's important that as device strategies become more diverse in terms of form factor and tablets and even wearables, that we're flexible to these things. Even developing applications specifically for Samsung Gear and going to be launching different solutions with the Apple Watch coming up very quickly as well.
Okay, great. Another one is a question about, what about remote lock and wipe? Is that something that's supported with your app?
Yeah, good question too. So, everything that's been built with our application has been security first, right? The founders of the company come from a long history of security background and patch management and networking. So when the app was first created, this was well before the EMM containers. We always built our app to be self-contained, right? So not only does it have the abilities to have remote wipes from an admin, similar control functions as what you would see for MDM players of the past, now, which we have those same capabilities on ours. So you can remote wipe, you can change private keys and things like that. Also, there's multiple factors of authentication that go into getting an app registered on your device. So you're authenticating the user and also other pieces within that authentication process. Not to mention data encryption at rest, as well as full data encryption in transit.
Awesome. Let's see. And then the other one is, do we need to sync phones via USB or some sort of tether?
One of the beautiful parts of our solution is you don't have to do any of that stuff. The solution can be deployed through your EMM provider in many cases, so it can be just pushed to a device, and then go through a registration, but there's no need for tethering or hand-holding with our solution.
Great. Let's see. Okay, that looks like all the questions right now. Once again, if you have questions, feel free to put those through, and then we'll have some more time after the demo for other questions as well.
Okay. Well, sounds good, and I will be available for the questions. And if there is any even folks that want to have any more live discussions and things like that, we're more than happy to. Because I think what you really see is there's a lot of use cases in the field, right? And each use case is somewhat individual in terms of what they're looking to accomplish. So it's really interesting when you start to have some of these conversations, because typically they turn into other folks that look at this and have the same symptoms that they're facing in terms of obstacles within their enterprise. So I appreciate the questions that have come through thus far, and I would like to introduce from my side Dragan Marcetta. Dragan is our Director of Sales Engineering, and what he is going to facilitate is examples of our application on multiple devices. You'll see that there's an example that he's going to show with an iPhone device with the CellTrust Secure Line application, and then he is actually going to show a Samsung device that has the CellTrust Secure Line application for good on there. So one is built into the good EMM environment, so you'll see some of those integrations. Now they're both registered to the same server. So it's one version just shows CellTrust Secure Line, the other shows CellTrust Secure Line for good. He's going to demonstrate some communication between those two devices. And then finally, he's going to demonstrate communication from those devices to another device that doesn't have anything on it. So this would represent more of a customer's device that's not going to have the application. The communication will come from that mobile business number. So again, thank you guys thus far, and without further ado, I will turn it over to Dragon.
Thank you, Brian. And what I'm going to do really quick here is just change my screens and remove these slides really quick and bring up my video camera. And what I'm doing right now is I'm pretty much displaying our two devices that will allow me to basically demonstrate this in real time. So what I have here is an iPhone 6 Plus with the latest iOS 8.2. And what we have here is a Galaxy S5 running CellTrust Secure Line for Good. So both of the devices are currently registered with a centralized secure server. The centralized secure server basically delegates all the communication between the devices and outside of our CellTrust Secure Line application. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and let me go ahead and close this application really quick and show you how it works. So if I force close this application, as a user to the application, I'm being directed directly to the dial pad menu of our application, but I also have the ability to go to my messages section as well as browse through all the contacts that are either synced from the secure server or directly imported from the wireless device. And in this particular section here, I have two groups, the CT demo group and the CT demo staff, that allows me to basically see who is currently available, who is away, as well as offline. In this particular section here under the CT demo staff, as we can see, we have a few devices. And we also have the CT Demo Galaxy S5, which is to our right here. And from our right-hand side here on our Galaxy S5, we have our Secure Line for Good version installed. And as we can see, we are currently at the dashboard of our Secure Line application. So what I'm going to demonstrate really quick is just quick two-way message communication between application to application. So using my iPhone 6 Plus, once I've selected the proper user, we're going to go ahead and select CT Demo S5. And from there, what we can do is we can either send a message or call. So in this particular demonstration, we're going to select Send a Message. We're going to go ahead and compose our two-way communication message. And we're going to go ahead and hit the send button. And as you can see, as soon as we hit the send button, the text message is processed directly from the secure server and delivered immediately to the wireless device. And if we open up the message section, we can see that we have a new message from CT Demo iPhone 6 Plus. Now, if we go back to our original text message, and if we go to that particular user, we can actually tell when that text message has been successfully delivered and opened. If we actually press and hold and select status, we can determine additional level of notifications to exactly know when that text message was delivered to the wireless device and when it was opened and read by the user. Additional level of notifications can be provided, such as the delete time as well. So for example, if I were to delete this text message, that particular information will be passed directly to the original sender of this particular text message. And as we can see, we now have a deleted message acknowledgement. Some of the other options that we can process with our solution is the ability to send a lifespan text message as well as a pager alert message. The lifespan text message has the ability for us to say, actually to specify how many times a text message can be read by the user, or for example, how long it can reside on the wireless device before it's removed. So for example, if we click on a little settings menu of our text message conversation, we can see lifespan settings right here in the middle of our screen. So for example, let's say we only want this message to be read once. So we're going to select once, and we're going to click on done. We're going to go ahead and process our text message. go ahead and click send. And once we hit send, we have a notification immediately that the message has been processed. And as we can see, the message is delivered. Now, the message is color-coded, and it is tagged with a little notification stating that it is a lifespan message. As you can see, both of the operating systems have that indication. So we're going to go ahead and review our text message. We're going to get a notification if this text message has been delivered. But if we click the back button and if we try to exit this particular conversation, we will get a deletion warning stating that one or more messages will be removed. So we're going to click on yes. And now we're back to the main conversation list view of all of our text messages. But if we go back into that same conversation, that text message has been automatically deleted as soon as we click back and exit out of that conversation. Now, the original sender is also notified that this text message has been successfully removed from the user's wireless device. And if we press and hold the actual text message body and select status, we'll be able to see the additional information and acknowledgments of the message being delivered, opened, and deleted, which was driven by the lifespan configuration of that message. Okay, so now what I'm going to demonstrate is the pager functionality. And what our pager functionality does is it has the ability to override the volume settings on your wireless device. So for example, this particular Samsung S5 is, I believe, on volume right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reduce the volume. I'm going to set it to vibrate. And when you set it, to vibrate, we can still send a message. But what we can do is we can enable the pager option, and we can alert the user at 100% volume, and we can completely override the user's volume control setting. So here we go. All right, we're going to hit send, and there it goes. And as you can see, the message is delivered immediately and notified. And I think this particular version, that option is disabled. But let me just go ahead and demonstrate that one more time, just so you can hear how the pager notification works. Oops. Hit send. Okay. All right. So it looks like we're running into just a small issue here with our Android device, but in any case, the pager alert will basically go off, alerting the user that there's a new text message. If for some reason the user doesn't read their text message or doesn't review their incoming new messages from the application, the device will alert the user consecutively every 60 seconds for about 15 to 20 seconds ring time. So the user is or will be able to check their particular text message and know if that text message is an emergency or not. The next option that I want to demonstrate really quick is the ability to initiate a two-way conversation over our secure voice solution. And using the same application on the wireless device, we have the ability to freely dial out any phone number or any GSM or any landline in the particular region or outside of that particular region as well. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and go to the contact section, and let's go ahead and use the same device. We're going to use CT Demo Galaxy S5, and this time instead of sending a text message, we're going to call this particular device. So here goes. I'm going to go ahead and click call, and we're going to say call. As you can see, we have an incoming conversation. So I'm just going to put both of the devices on mute so that the sound echo doesn't appear. But as we can see now, we've established a direct secure connection over the data communication channel. On our right-hand side on the S5 device, we can actually see the communications as it's happening. We can see the rate. We can also see the packet loss and the codec that we're using. The nice part about our application is that we can also have the ability to put an individual on hold. So for example, hoping you guys can hear this, but basically what I've done now is I've basically placed my iPhone 6 Plus on hold, my conversation on hold, and the individual on the other side using the S5 is hearing basically hold music. We can also go ahead and mute as well as place the device on speaker so that the speaker device or functionality can be utilized from this phone as well. Let me go ahead and end this call really quick. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and perform another call, but what I'm going to do now is actually call the iPhone 6 Plus using my S5 device. So here I am in the contact section on my S5, and I'm going to go ahead and dial the iPhone 6 Plus. So I'm just going to click on that little dial icon, and it's going to immediately initiate the call. Now, we don't have to be in the application. The application doesn't have to be running at all times. It can be running in the background, or it could be completely closed. The application will send a push notification stating that there's an incoming call, and answering the call will allow us to either answer or reject. Well, let's go ahead and reject with text and say, sorry, I'm busy right now, I can't talk. What has happened at this point is that we've completely ended the conversation, and we rejected that incoming call. And if we go into our messaging section, we can see that we have a message from that user that rejected the call stating that he's sorry, he's busy, can't talk right now. So that's how our solution works when it comes to app-to-app communication with voice and SMS. But what we also can do is the ability to communicate outside of our application. So I'm going to go ahead and take this S5 out of the demonstration. I'm going to add another S5, which is just an ordinary device. This is actually a brand new S5 using Lollipop 5.0 operating system, and it doesn't have our application installed whatsoever. So I'm going to reduce the brightness on here so you can see it. All right, perfect. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to dial the actual physical number of this phone. So I'm going to go to my voice section, and I'm going to freehand my telephone number. So I'm going to go ahead and dial 949-350-7891, and I'm going to press talk. And what this is going to do is this is going to initiate a communication, a voice call directly across our secure server using the mobile business number, and it will dial the direct GSM device that we have here on our left-hand side. And here it is. As you can see, we have an incoming call from area code 724, which is the mobile business number that we have assigned for this device. So I'm going to go ahead and answer it. And here we go. We've initiated a conversation with our application and another non-secure line application device. So let's go ahead and end this call really quick. And let me call it again so we can demonstrate the reject call option. So we're going to go ahead and place this on mute so we don't hear the echo again. And we're going to initiate the call. It does take a few seconds to initiate the call. Once the call is initiated and started, the incoming user will receive the incoming call as we see right here. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and reject. And rejecting the call will take us directly to the user's voicemail. Now, if we were to call that number back using a GSM phone number or a landline, for example, we also have the ability to do the same thing. We can send that user a text message or we can call them. So let's go ahead and call that user first. And what we're going to do now is we're going to actually reject this call. We're going to have it go directly to voicemail. All right, so we're going to go ahead and select reject.
After the tone. When done, hang up or press the pound key.
iPhone 6, I'm leaving you a quick voicemail. All right. Now that we left our voicemail, we are basically notified with our application directly over the SMS communication, over the secure communication channel, and we have an actual voice notification message in our inbox. We'll shortly get that, but in the time of essence during this meeting, we're going to go ahead and go directly to our dial pad. We're going to click on voice mail, and we're going to go to speaker here.
You have one new message. Press 1 for new messages. Press 2 to change folders.
And as you can see, we have a new message, so we're going to press 1 to listen to the message.
Hello, iPhone 6, I'm leaving you a quick voicemail.
And there it is.
Press 3 for advanced options. Press 5 to repeat the current
So we're just going to
message deleted.
delete that message.
Press 3 for advanced options. Press 5 to repeat the current.
And we're going to end our voicemail call. So what I've just demonstrated is receiving an incoming call from an ordinary GSM device, rejecting the call and having the call go to voicemail, and then having our secure line application deliver that voicemail to the end user within our application. Now, another thing that we can do is we can also text that user. So we can say, hello from Samsung S5. And we're going to hit send. And when we hit send, the standard SMS text message will be processed and delivered directly to our secure line application. As we can see, it only took a few seconds, and we had an alert that there's a new message in our messaging inbox. And if we click on our messaging inbox, we are presented that there's a new text message coming from number 949. So we're going to click on that, and we're going to go ahead and touch to open, and here it is. Here's our standard message that we have just received from S5. So we can actually reply back. And that message is processed the same route. It's sent across our secure server in encrypted fashion, and then is processed directly to the wireless network carriers. And as you can see, we have our new text message in the standard SMS inbox. Now, we've done some text message transactions. We've processed some calls back and forth. Where do these calls go? Well, these calls are all processed and captured at our server level. And this is our particular server here that we have. This is our web browser that allows us to kind of get real-time reports. And if we generate a report for April 1st, we can actually see all of the transactions that have occurred across this particular server. We see secure conversations from device to device, but at the same time, we also see virtual text messages, virtual messages, which are basic standard text messages with users that don't have the application installed. So we can, as an administrator of our solution, we can actually click on this particular hyperlink to actually display the full text message body. Now, this is just our web interface. What we also have, as we know, is the ability to integrate directly with Guava. And let me just go ahead and pull up this particular capture here really quick. And if we open this particular example, this is an example of the retained software capturing our two-way communication, whether it's secure or standard communication to a standard GSM device. And as we can see, we have all of the message transactions to and from, as well as the timestamps and the actual device being used. This allows our solution to be fully compliant with organizations using the retained software, and our solution has the ability to simply provide either an hourly data dump or a nightly data dump to the retained solution so that it can be successfully archived and processed by the organization. And with that said, that's pretty much about it.
Great. Awesome. That's wonderful. It does look like we do have a number of questions here, so and we do have some time for these. So let me just go ahead and get into those. The first one is, and I think we might have answered this, but let's just reiterate it, is does the CellTrust solution require the mobile device to change its phone number, or does it use a virtual phone number specific for CellTrust?
In this situation, it uses the virtual business number that is assigned to the secure server to process the outgoing text messages outside of the application. So in this particular demonstration here, this particular number, the 724 number, that is actually a mobile business number that we have assigned on the back end of our secure server. So during the registration process of your wireless device, when you register, you are also assigned a mobile business number, allowing your users to communicate outside of the secure trust, outside of the CellTrust secure application.
Perfect. Great. That answers. There was another question too, is that you just answered, which is if that number was a carrier-provided number or CellTrust number, and then of course we just answered that it's through the CellTrust business number. Okay, so the next one is, do you have the ability to restrict an iOS user from using the native SMS/iMessage application and forcing them to use your client?
Gotcha. That's a great question. We personally don't have the ability to force somebody to use our application, but what we can do, what you can do on an iOS device side is provision your iOS device and actually remove, for example, SMS messaging and iMessaging, for example. So you can do that with other solutions like an MDM solution. You can even do that with the solution that Apple offers along the side with mobile device management, the Apple Configurator, which will allow you to limit access to other applications on that device. So, for example, if we want to disable SMS, native SMS on an iOS device, we can certainly do that via the Apple Configurator, and then also ensuring that those services are disabled with the actual wireless network carrier.
Great. Okay, so how does this work if the app is not open?
The way this works is basically it works on application push notifications. We work directly, we develop our solutions natively on iOS as well as Android devices. So we utilize the Google push notifications for Android devices as well as the Apple push notifications for iOS products. The application doesn't have to be running on the device. It can be completely closed or running in the background, whatever the case is. And the incoming notifications are pushed directly via application push notifications. So if your application push notifications are not disabled, you should not have any problems receiving your incoming notifications, whether they're an incoming call or whether it's an incoming text message.
Okay. And then how does the login work? Do they have to log into the app? Is there a PIN that they have to create to log into that application?
Absolutely. So yes, there is an option that is available in the application. We currently have it disabled by default, but what you can do is you can actually set your recovery, you can actually set your PIN you can actually enable the application to have an access PIN. So every time the application is closed, it will prompt you to log into the PIN, or log into the application. So let me go ahead and force close my application. Let me open it up. As you can see right now, the application is prompting us for a 6-digit PIN. So we're going to enter our PIN, and we're into the system. The Secure Line for Good client does utilize the Good Technologies authentication. So it uses the Good Access key and email address so that you can authenticate to the solution. Once you've authenticated to the solution, it will prompt you to create your own password so you can access the system. But as you can see, we also have our own native access PIN functionality that you can enable or disable.
All right. And then is there a timeout? Like if I'm in the app and let's say I've gone to something else, does it time out to where the app will close itself, or?
Yes, exactly. The application does have a timeout function. As you can see right here, we have a logout warning that you can specify, and it's either in seconds, minutes, or even hours. And you can choose when your logout warning occurs. So as soon as your device logs out automatically, it will prompt you to log in next time you open the application.
Okay. And then if you get a call and let's say you're not logged into the app, how does that work?
The way that works is you're going to get notified as a user via the application push notification. And if you acknowledge that application push notification, you will be prompted to log into the secure line client. After you log into the secure line client, you'll be able to basically either answer your call or make a call or process a text message.
Oh, great. Awesome. All right. Great. Good questions, everyone. It looks like there's a few about the archiving piece. And so let's just see how these go. First one is, are deleted messages archived?
Yes. Yes. Basically, any text messages that are processed with our application, all of that is completely archived across the server. The minute you hit the send button and that message is processed, whether that message is set to be deleted on the recipient's end or whether it's set to expire, it will never be deleted from the reporting side of our solution. It will always be archived.
Great. And then do you archive the phone calls?
We do archive the phone calls. Our calls, as you can see, I have the call log history opened under the All section on my iPhone 6 Plus, and these call logs are also tracked and logged on our server side as well.
Okay, perfect. All right, let's see here. And that looks like all the questions we have right now. Once again, I'll just make mention, if there were questions that you had that didn't get answered or that you do have, feel free to contact us offline, and we'll be sure to answer that. And once again, everyone, this has been recorded, so you can come back and take a look at things that you may have missed or share this with anyone you'd like. Thanks again, Dragon, for your time, and Brian as well, and everyone for being on this call. And I'd like to thank you from Guava, and we encourage everyone to try these solutions out. Try out CellTrust. Try out the Retain Archive. As we've seen from this, it's a great solution, something that will really help you be compliant and have that dual persona in your phone, and then also be able to archive. Thanks again, Brian and Dragon.
Anytime. Thank you.